Both Friedrich Nietzsche and Alicia Keys once said, "What doesn't kill me makes me stronger." So, with Assad as of January 26th not being a rotting corpse in the ground, could we say that he's stronger now? Well, although Assad isn't a rotting corpse in the ground, his country could definitely be called that at this point. Considering that hundreds of $billions of damages is the result of Assad's victory, people might actually say that what didn't kill him made him weaker. And start wondering the question, that being, has Assad's victory in Syria made him weaker? And the answer is actually no, for three reasons. That first, Assad has saved face in the region. Second, that Assad has made a very amicable, important friendship with Russia. And third, that Assad has been able to quell tensions between his government and the Kurds, in fact, even making an alliance. But keep in mind that throughout this speech, I am not arguing that Assad has become stronger because of his victory. Rather, I'm specifically saying that in spite of his victory and the damage caused by it, Assad hasn't budged and has only become stronger. So with that, the first reason that Assad has become stronger in spite of his victory is because Assad has been able to save face across the region. Assad wasn't the most popular kid at the world lunch table, especially considering that he's done some pretty messed up stuff. For example, Assad was known to bomb one of his own cities with poison gas, even after it was already taken. Now, Assad denied that this happened, but most people in the world community don't really believe him, especially the United Arab Emirates, who backed the United States against Assad throughout the Syrian conflict. But Assad has had the political tenacity and political strength to completely make this UAE turn a 180 on this. Reuters reported on December 9th that the UAE diplomat to Syria said that he congratulated Assad on his wise leadership. A true, complete 180-degree turn from what they used to believe, hinging their bets against Assad. And more importantly, the article continues to note that Assad has been trying to shed his reputation as a pariah across the region. And this is important for Assad because if he can truly change his image, then he can change the relations he has with other countries. He can create better trade deals. He can help his people. What this means is that Assad can be a more strategic and widely accepted world leader. But Assad has been trying to make an even more important friendship. Take, for example, that the Moscow Times reported on January 12th that one reporter from Channel 13 had an anecdote that when Assad met with Putin in Moscow, he asked, "Why didn't you invite Trump?" And although this might just be in secret, what this demonstrates is that Assad has an actual implication and an actual plan to make better relationships with other people across the world, including the United States, one of the most important players in world politics. So, with Assad making such grand and important friendships, it seems that Assad isn't actually weaker with his victory. But he's made one very, very important friendship. And this brings us to our second point, that the second reason that Assad's victory hasn't made him weaker is because Assad has a very important friendship with Russia. See, Russia and Syria have been story druzya, or old friends in the Russian language. In the early days of the war, Assad has called for Russia to help him, as Al Jazeera reported in January of last year that in 2014, Assad called for Vladimir Putin to aid him in fighting ISIS. And Putin actually delivered. The article continues saying that in September of 2015, Putin publicly declared that he would help Syria in their, quote, legitimate struggle against terrorism. And the result of this would be Russia only sharing their toys. They gave them tanks, weapons, but no soldiers. It seemed that their relationship wouldn't go that far yet. But much like any couple, it matured and eventually Russia was allowed in. In fact, it was reported by the Moscow Times on December 10th of 2019 that Russian soldiers were seen marching into the streets of Raqqa, the former capital of the Islamic Caliphate. And what this actually meant is that Russia now is cemented with troops within Syria. And even more importantly, what they did in the country shows how important Russia is to Syria. The article continues, going on to say that Russian soldiers were seen handing out humanitarian aid within the city. So, what this means is that the Russians are trying to be beloved by the Syrians and beloved by the Syrian government. They're actually making real effort to try to rebuild the city. And to take it to another example, and on the other side, what has the United States done for Syria? Well, NPR reported on October 26, 2018, that in the same city of Raqqa, after a U.S. drone strike, one citizen of the city had to say that, quote, "This is not liberation." While the Americans bomb cities, the Russians are trying to build them up. And what this means is that Russia will become a very crucial ally for Syria, meaning that the population will love Russia, and subsequently, Russia will be able to support Syria in all of their diplomatic and geopolitical needs, including fighting their conflict. But in fighting their conflict, Syria also has an important ally much closer to home, which brings us to our third and final point, that Syria has a very important ally with the Kurds, because the Kurds at one point were very antagonistic against Syria, and more importantly, Syria and the Kurds actually fought each other. But in recent events with Syria fighting against the Turkish powers with the Kurds, it means that they're now in the state of an actual alliance. As the New York Times reported on November 12th of 2019, that Syria and the Kurds have made a non-aggression pact after being sworn enemies. And the article continues to go on to say that they're teaming up to fight the Turkish incursions against them. So, with Syria actually helping the Kurds and having an alliance with them, what this means is that I'm out of time.